What are some of the concerns that that you guys might have currently in this market? I would say in the last 2 or 3 months the trend that you're seeing in the market in regards to value or just the customer.
Yeah, I could answer a little bit of that if you don't mind, Landon. Over improvement in their backyard, right? And don't give the property enough time to appreciate. So the people who purchased in 2020 through 2023, they got 150, $200,000 in their backyard, and that dog don't hunt, right? You're just not going to get that back in the matter of 2 and 3 years. And it's very similar to like a solar that they purchased. It's sorry, we can show you on a spreadsheet and we can show you you don't have that kind of time to appreciate. So when you look at the Crawford report, I know that appraisers, you guys kind of look at that to gauge a little bit, but we look at it, or my team and I look at it more so just to try to price properties to sell and to educate the consumer. Like last month, for example, and I'm really kind of changing the guideline of this conversation real quick, but just to circle back around on the over improvements and people who will take over price listings, that's the whole reason for this oversupply situation that we have right now, is because 6 out of 10 people, November, December, January, just to give you a quick stat, in February, 6 out of 10 were not listing versus sold. They're just sitting there, they're lethargic. Why? Because there's no demand for an overpriced home when there's 5 months of inventory. So that's the challenges that we're seeing right now. Just because, a guy down the street, he's selling his house for 100 grand more than you quoted me with, and I'll go with that company. Great, super, fantastic. It's show me the math where that's just not going to work. I think you should call somebody else because we just can't help you. We're spinning our wheels a lot in our industry, but it's good, right? I mean, our batting averages are solid on the ones that we list and the people that have common sense. We're not burning bridges, but for those who just say, I'm going to do it my way or the highway, that's the challenge that we're dealing with right now in our industry, Frank.
Yeah, you're right. Inventory is a little higher. People do have more choices. I think during COVID, Martin, everybody's backyard became a resort, right? I did that. I overspent on my backyard, and I have a beautiful backyard in regards to what I need. And I think it's worth $1 million. But am I going to get the $30,000 that I spent on my pergola? No, I'm not. Am I going to get you know the 60 or $50,000 pool return? I'm not. Absolutely not. And not without being exact, but just for instance, in a Strand Mountain Ranch, if you spend about $70,000 on a pool, just on an average, you're going to get about 25, $35,000 back. Everybody's proud of their home and everybody's proud of their landscaping. And yes, it does make a huge difference in marketability. Your house will sell faster if you have a beautiful backyard, but the reality is it's an over improvement, super adequacy. And it's just extracting adjustments. The material that you use in regards to recapturing every dollar that you could possibly recapture in regards to landscaping. And I just don't understand why a borrower would think that, I get these receipts. I spent $160,000, Frank, in the backyard. First of all, my jaws drop, and mentally, I already know the numbers. I already know what they're going to get back, but I don't ever hear back from them because most of my clients are there, AMCs or banks. But yeah, you're right. You're not gonna see that return, and it's a good idea for the homeowner to know, to be well informed. You might have more of an enjoyment on the return than the actual cost investment. And if that's what it's worth for you to do a beautiful resort yard, go for it. But if you're looking to recapture or to get money back on a refinance or at a sale, you're just unfortunately not going to see it. You're not going to.
We've got to start factoring in entertainment value, right? For yourself.
Yeah, entertainment
When
value.
you're putting those pulls in and things like that. What are you going to get out of it? And what are you going to sell it for? If you can get if we're at about 50, 60% on what you're going to get back for a pool upgrade, well, will you get the other 40 to 50% of entertainment for you and your family? Another issue I wanted to add that we're dealing with right now is seller concessions. I think 80% of all real estate transactions right now are coming with seller concessions. So what the consumer sees is, well, my neighbor sold for 450, right? But on the back end, when we really look at that listing, they sold for 450 with $15,000 in seller concessions. So when you're appraising a property and you're looking at all of this data, how are you factoring in those seller concessions? Can you explain to them how that works when property sells for 450, but it's got that 15,000 in concessions that they're not seeing on Zillow and realtor.com and wherever they're looking at these homes? Explain to us how that works in the appraisal.
Concessions in regards to the way I write reports and my peers are writing reports, the concession is as long as it's not exceeding a 6% margin, 5% margin, it's typical of the market. Some clients and some banks want us to adjust for that, and it's a negative adjustment. Concession is a negative adjustment. So yeah, it's going to affect the sales price, definitely.
And that's where I get to the desktop appraisals or even the desktop home evaluations that you can grab on any website, real estate website. What's my home worth? They're not factoring in those things. They're also not factoring in the Cromford data, the hyper local data. This is, you go on those websites and you're looking for your home value. You're getting Maricopa County, maybe even Pinal County, all that data just thrown in one pile. And that's how they're determining those values. It's not hyper local, and they're also not factoring in things like seller concessions and other data that drives our market.
Yeah, you're right. No, that's where a lot of confusion starts because it's data from the entire Maricopa County, declining trends, for instance, or increasing trends. And all of a sudden, the borrower, the homeowner reads something and they 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 think their home is worth, 6% more or 4% more than the competing home across the street. Another factor that I get a lot, you guys, is that when I go and do an appraisal, they present me with comps that the homeowner does, or in regards to lender reports. They're not supposed to give me, comp sales. You're not supposed to influence me in any kind of a way. But I've noticed that most of the time they're not giving me closed sales. They're giving me pending inactives. And that's what they think their home is worth. It's so irritating and it's so sad that we get a lot of realtors who are knocking on these people's doors and influencing them and misdirecting them. And in the reality is we don't put any weight on those active or pendings. They have to be closed sales. So it's very rare that they give me closed sales. It's always the pending and inactives, and they assume that's what their home is worth.
Our team we are trained to use closed. All of us are. The only time we use the other statuses, the pendings, the actives, we use the overall to determine a days on the market. And we really should be using closed, quite frankly, but we like to just at least look at those three categories to determine the days on the market, not the value, but the days on the market.
Yeah.
I call it the copycat listing strategy. And I met with a client just this past weekend, and he's all about the numbers. He just wants to know what his home is going to sell for, not fairy tale numbers. And I showed him his value is about 370, and every active comp in the area and pending even was listed 399, 399, 399. It's that bubble to get under 400 for search engines, which getting under 400 is smart, but if the home is worth 370, well, at 399, you're building in a price reduction, you're building in a higher days on market that isn't necessary. And I told him, I said, look, I just want to point these out, and this is what I call the copycat listing strategy, because I know you're going to interview other professionals, and just watch out for this number and see if that's what it comes in at. So he sent me an email later that evening and he says, Landon, you were right. They used a copycat listing strategy. And I had two other professionals come in and they quoted me exactly what you said they would quote me at. And I thought maybe he would at least interview somebody that got really down to the numbers, but it's just you're building in a days on market, and when we jump from 30 days on the market to 60 days on market, you go from a 3% average negotiation to a 6% negotiation. Well, do the math. Consumers, listeners, it's not worth it. It's the price of a car. So if a price of a car is worth it, it's not for me. And we're in the business. Sears Group's in the business to sell homes, not list homes. You can watch HGTV. They list a lot of properties and show a lot of homes. That's not what we're in the business to do.
Yeah, you're right. I think we had that conversation, Martin, about a couple of months ago. I think I used that car analogy. I think it was a home in Canamia, and it was a model match. And I think you weren't able to convince the homeowner, I think it was an older model versus the same model, brand new construction. And I think I compared that to a Mercedes. Why would you buy a 1993 Mercedes when you can buy a 2010 Mercedes or a 2025 Mercedes? And you have it listed at the same price. Why would you do that? And I told Martin, your price needs to come down.
I remember that conversation. That was a great observation. I think I actually used that too, because it made when you break that down into realistic terms, like you want to buy a new car, or a 5-year-old car or a 20-year-old car that has the same. It just doesn't make sense. The car has older brakes and transmission and more miles. Same with our major brand components in our house, air conditioning.
New construction comes with warranty, with builder warranties. That has value in an appraisal, in an appraisal stance. Yeah. Those warranties have value. It's just common sense. It's okay. That's why we're here to inform the consumer, the audience. What we need to do is just have shows like this, and hopefully you guys can make your job easier, make my job easier. Because a lot of realtors, are not well informed of how we adjust for golf views and garages and just amenities overall. And what we do with that is a paired sale analysis. And the paired sale analysis is just comparing a home that has your improvement versus a home that doesn't have. In a perfect world, the perfect size matches, everything matches except one has one pool, one doesn't have a pool. They sold within 6 months, and we extract that value, the pool adjustment or the view adjustment. Golf view adjustments here in Australia, they're they're very difficult to prove. Mountain views and washed views and distant mountain views. We have so many view factors here in Australia, and they're changing, right? They're changing. We're getting all types of improvements and amenities here in Australia. Some people didn't realize they were going to have a restaurant built right behind their home, or a residence club, and they do create nuisances and they do create noise factors and external factors. The value might change. The value might change just because of that factor. It
Yeah.
won't be dramatic, but it'll be, at least a change in value. But at the same time, we're improving the community. We're making it more desirable, more marketable. More people want to move to Australia because we have better improvements. We have better amenities than, most other subdivisions. So it betters the community, but it does create a negative value factor when you do directly back into a restaurant or residence club.
And Frank, before we close, I've got to ask, this is another big one here, solar panels, right? Now, solar's another one, they ask about it all the time. How do you treat solar panels if they're leased or financed? Do they hold any value? Oftentimes they're transferring that to the buyer and the buyer's assuming that loan.
Yeah, solar panels are considered personal property unless they're paid in full, meaning we have a receipt, we have a lien release from the company. Financed or leased solar panels are not included in value whatsoever. And if um, they are paid in full, then we have to look at other factors. Solar panels, they're not easy to appraise, but you have to see the inverter, the kilowatts per hours, the amount of solar panels you have. How old is the panel system?
Thanks for that. I mean, that's huge here. Everyone, I mean, I think at least 40, 50% of homes have solar on them these days.
We're solar specialists at the Sears Group. I mean, we can help people determine value with like exactly how many panels do you have, how many kilowatts is it putting out? Is it 90 offset, 100% offset, 10% offset? What's the likelihood of your rate of return, right? 12 years, 15 years, family of 3, family of 2, family of 4, putting that into perspective to give it value so we can pitch it to the consumer, because we're a majority on the listing side of it. But I can tell you that there really should be something, and I'm pro solar. I think it's the right thing to do, especially where we live. It's a great idea for the ecology, just where just to consume not as much energy. So I love that aspect of it, but there really needs to be some more laws, predatory laws, maybe with the state specific, of just trying to have these people really misrepresenting solar to selling it to people who just does not understand the impact on what it could happen if they're going to move in the next 3 to 5 years. There just needs to be some more consumer reports out there to the public, because those people that come to you, Frank, looking for an appraisal on some type of hardship or a probate or an estate or a refi, it's difficult. And it's really difficult for us to explain that daily, day in, day out, to consumer or to sellers as well, that we love what you did. We think it's a great thing. But when it comes down to the numbers, that you're not getting that rate of return. You may someday, the laws may change, but right now, man, I can't stand when they come to your door and they try to pitch off solar and tell you, I guarantee I'm going to give you this kind of offset and this much guarantee. No, you're not. You can't do that.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. There's just so many factors. Technology is moving really quick. Do you have solar?
I do not have solar. I wish I would have purchased solar prior to 2019 when the costs were a third and when you were
Yeah,
getting
you're
the
getting a rebate.
actual and the metering was differently before APS changed their
ATS.
laws.
Yeah,
I
I
have
agree.
solar panels on my house, and I got them when I honestly I got pitched on those rebates, that we got toward taxes and stuff like that. And I mean, I will say that I haven't paid an APS bill in 3 or 4 years, but I pay a solar bill, and the rates on energy just have went up substantially. So
Solar for many people, it's a great investment. I know a lot of people who have the same story as you, Landon, and they love it. They love it, and it's actually worked out good for them.
No doubt. And I don't want the
That
consumers
is
or the
home.
people that are listening thinking I'm anti-solar because I'm not. Listen, if you're selling your house and you purchased your solar in 2021 and you're selling your house in 2026, chances are, like Frank said, you're just not going to get a good rate of return. But someone like Landon, you're at that generation where you're looking at it from a 10-year return. You have kids. So it's going to work out very, very good for you because
Exactly.
you're not selling.
it was new
And
construction as well, so I already had, the roof was new, so I'm looking at hopefully 20 years, right? 25 years before I'm having to do anything to the roof. Anyway, I think to add to what you're saying though is maybe people should just do a little bit more consulting. I've got a really good friend who actually talks with people about and he'll consult with me every once in a while on, home value and things like that, because he wants to bring kind of a different side to the solar industry that it cares more about people's investment as a whole and not just the solar panels that they're trying to sell. But to your point, Martin, and I think what Martin's conveying is consult with us, consult with Frank, consult with a professional that can help you make that decision, and not just the solar company who comes in and they're selling that solar panel, but they don't talk about your home value. They don't talk about your plans. How long are you planning to stay in the home? Do you plan to sell in the next 3 to 5 years? They don't discuss those things. When people make big purchases, most people will go to their CPA or their financial advisor, and they'll consult with them before they make that purchase. So use your real estate professional. Come to us at the Sears Group. Go to Frank, and get the information and talk to him about it. We would always be happy for a conversation from customers if they wanted to consult on that.
Absolutely.
If anyone is wanting to reach out to you, whether they're looking to do an appraisal or just consult on some upgrades and kind of build that what they should do to their home before they sell, or just upgrades that they want to do to make sure that they're going to see some return on their investment, how could someone get in contact with you? And
Absolutely. They could call me directly or email me directly. Just, the best way would be my business number is 623-444-8548. And my personal direct, you could text me directly. You want to pick my brain, you're a realtor or you're just a homeowner and you want to know what the most modern trend is and what you should do. Yeah, you could do that. And I get back to you really quick via text or personal email. My email is AZ Professional Appraisal at gmail.com. And my direct number is 602-475-9330.
perfect. We'll make sure that's in the show notes as well for everybody that's watching, our listeners, that you could see that in the descriptions below. Frank, this has been really helpful. We really appreciate your time. I believe, a lot of homeowners and professionals in general don't fully understand how much actually goes into determining value. So we really appreciate you taking the time to walk us through some of this. To everyone listening, our mission here at Beyond the Sign is simple. We want to give hope to people navigating real estate and help both consumers and professionals become more informed and better at what they do. If you found value in this episode, share it with someone who would benefit from it, whether that's a homeowner, a buyer, a seller, or another real estate professional. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Beyond the Sign.